Then he talks about natural vorticity. So he asks the question, what causes Huygens deflection? Now we have to first say, what is Huygens deflection? And as I understand it, what you're talking about is the idea of taking a rope, like having a rock on the end of a rope, and what keeps the thing, what causes it to just stay in a rotating thing when you get enough energy. That's Huygens' deflection. That's what he means by that. So we're talking about initially it's moving straight, and yet it's deflected continuously. It's a constant acceleration in a different direction, so that it becomes an orbit. Okay, so initially straight waves deflecting continuously off objects, you know, is creating a vortex. You get the idea. Okay, let's go on. Okay, next there are a few definitions that he was giving. He talked quite a bit about accretion, which is growth by gradual external addition. So in the Rado model, what we have is because there are vortices within this ether substance, that there is a suction inward, and that accretes and actually becomes matter. That's your idea.
The centripetal force.
Yeah, and that matter then is the dynamic, because of the dynamics. See, vortexes are inherently dynamic. You can't have a static vortex. It's motion. And so, go ahead.
Saying that the ether, the mass is made of ether?
Yeah, mass is condensed ether.
Okay.
All right. This is the Rado idea, is a dynamic condensation of this kinetic motion of ether becomes matter. I'll have to be honest that I have a little difficulty with that, but that's the idea. Ether then accretes to become subatomic particles, which then accrete to become, so that's the idea of accretion, is growing and becoming clumps and things like that. So let's go on. Aethro-kinematics then becomes, the postulate is that a centripetal or spiral gravitational inflow of a gaseous or particulate cosmic ether particles called etherons. And I misspelled it. There shouldn't be an E in there. I'm sorry. It should just be etherons. Sorry about that. And I'll make the same mistake throughout the rest of the presentation, so please forgive me. Anyway, gaseous means particulate. So in other words, there are these particles of ether called etherons, and they are spinning and vortexing and things like that. Okay, so that's the idea of aethro-kinematics. Next slide. Then he makes some assumptions, and here they are. He assumes that isotropic, homogeneous cosmosphere with local. Okay, so in other words, the cosmosphere, which is all of space, basically, and filled with ether, that is essentially homogeneous, and yet there are local anisotropies, this is where matter is accreting, okay? So there's little clumps here and there. But overall, it's homogeneous. Is that correct? Okay. Rotation creates a sync vortex, which becomes the gravitational field. So this rotation, this sync vortex, is the cause of gravity. That's the second assumption. And the cause of the Huygens centripetal force is the aethro-kinematic accretion. Where is this centripetal force coming from? From the accretion of this ether material.
It's important that this is the aethro-kinematics theory. It's not the dynamic yet.
Sure. Okay, so this is still. And we may not get all the way to the end, but we'll get as far as we get. So, but these are the assumptions or the assertions of the theory. Free fall is, as he talked about, the F over M is an invalid idea. That's the claim. Okay, now he then goes back to the Huygens centripetal rope, and I believe I have this in the order it's written, so I'm hopefully being just with this. The Descartes vortex, first of all, was demolished by Newton. We don't have the details on that, but that was and we're admitting that because it was mathematically flawed. Okay, Einstein's non-Euclidean gravitational. I'm sorry. The question we're trying to answer here is what is the cause of the centripetal rope? Okay, right. The first is Descartes' vortex a valid solution? No, it's not, because it's been mathematically demolished. Okay, is Einstein's non-Euclidean gravitational field, is that an acceptable solution to this? And he's saying no, because that demands a reinterpretation of space and time. So we can't accept that either. Is it correct?
Right.
Number three, then how about quantum gravity? That's the more popular one today in mainstream. That invents subatomic graviton. These are exchange particles, and something called virtual collisions, which we also have some philosophical issues with. So he's not accepting any of those three as viable. So the fourth solution, which is obviously the one he is propounding, is aethro-kinematics. And that uses the etherons as a sink vortex, these things that are moving into these vortex continuum. Okay? So let's move on. Next one. Okay, so here are the things that he discovered, which he considers fundamental. And I'll state this slowly. Gaseous ether, so particulate ether, creates static, or apparently, should we say, quasi-static kinetic energy. In other words, it's static in the sense that it's constantly, it's the same at all times, and yet there's motion because everything's being replaced by something behind it. So it creates a static kinetic ether as an isotropic, same on all sides, cosmospheric pressure, and that includes accreted matter itself. So everything is getting this is getting created by this gaseous ether, including matter.
Can I add also
Go ahead.
omnidirectional and random?
Pardon?
Can I also add here omnidirectional and random?
I don't think the question is clear. Omnidirectional or what?
Yes, omnidirectional, all directions, moving in all directions.
Well, it's the static pressure is omnidirectional. But when it becomes a local vortex, it's a rotational direction. It's an orbiting system.
So you say random gas is like pressure?
Yeah.
That's the,
Static.
yeah, that's the static.
It's still under the underlying static pressure of the ether. The vortex itself is under the cosmic pressure.
So, and the last of the second, this is not really related, but a second fundamental discovery is encapsulation, which is the idea of things being accreted into a localized region. That is materialization. That's his fundamental idea. Okay.